Broadcast is live.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Real Talks. Um, First off, I'm not David. David is not here. Unfortunately, he is a bit sick, so I will be filling in for him as, I guess, the host of this discussion. I'm Kyle. I am here with my friend Tyler, who you all know. Um, we're waiting on Destiny to join us, but today we also have a special guest in the form of our friend Christina. So,
Hi.
Christina, how are you today?
I am good.
How
Yeah,
about you, Tyler?
I'm good. I mean, I kind of sucks with the fact that the Bengals lost, but I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah. Um, so I guess we should start off the bat with our general thoughts of episode 3 of The Last of Us. And I'll go first by just saying that I think this is one of the best episodes of television I've seen in quite a while.
Mhm.
I think one of the things that really I found it to be so profound is just how it adapts the material of the game, because we're I think people watching this will just enjoy it that haven't played the game regardless. But the one thing that's I think really striking is if you have played the game, some people might not be too happy with the changes
Oh
because some
yeah,
people,
yeah.
really want everything to be just like the game. But when it comes to what they did, I just think it enhanced the game even further to
Mm.
the point where, and we'll get to the end of it, I think that what it does is it even improves or at least connects to the character of Joel and his relationship with Ellie more than even the game did, based on what we get to when we see the end of this episode. But going off of there,
Uh
Tyler, what
oh.
is your
What's
what
my
Uh,
like?
rate? You're cutting
Yeah,
out a little bit, buddy.
what are your general thoughts
Yeah,
of the
I
episode?
liked it a lot. I do think they talked about at the end of the episode, the behind the scenes thing, that of the reason why they decided to deviate from the game. And I do think, knowing, as they explained at the ending, that, Bill was alive in the game and how they deviated from it. And I think it enhanced the game. I, I haven't even played the game, and I can agree with that. I think it enhances it, and it's so beautiful. Like, I wasn't expecting, you know, you don't expect a doomsday prepper to be an LGBT, somebody who's LGBTQ, you know, and
which is kind of
somebody.
a bad thing to not expect that, but
Yes, oh, it is. I think it is. Like, it's like the stereotype,
yeah.
like it doesn't, like it doesn't fit the social norm, and I loved that. And it's like, oh, this Harding guy really does have a massive heart, and it took somebody out of the blue coming into his life that really, I think, took him out of his shell. I thought it was so beautiful. The cinematography, again, so beautiful. I thought the way that they introduced Bill and Frank, right? Frank and Bill, right?
Yes,
I
yes.
thought that, on how, like, they went from showing the cloth of those dead bodies and the
Hmm.
skeletons to the flashback was so goddamn good.
It
Like,
was, especially like with the blanket.
yes, and it was like, oh shit, like that's a really good transition into it. So yeah, I thought it was a fantastic episode, and I cried. I cried for sure. I teared up. I'm like, I I kind of had a feeling when Offerman, like you could just tell in Offerman's eyes at that dinner table what was about to happen, and I'm like, I literally said out loud, I'm like, oh shit, this isn't yeah, I don't, yeah, this is gonna go downhill real quick, and it did, and I thought it was beautiful.
Hmm.
Christina, what do you think?
Well, I definitely was not expecting a beautiful gay love story in this show
Yeah,
going into
ah, yeah, right.
it.
It was good.
And it was one of the most beautiful love stories I've seen, like an LGBT relationship I've seen in a show in a long time, especially in the zombie genre. Which I mean, I didn't watch Walking Dead.
There wasn't that much that in that at all.
Yeah,
So
I know of like one couple, but I've never
Yeah.
actually watched the show. I think I watched like half an episode. But yeah, so I was definitely not expecting that. Like I wasn't even expecting a love story, honestly, but especially like that. I've always been a fan of Nick Offerman since Parks and Rec, so it's really really cool to. I love seeing him. He also did give me Ron Swanson vibes, but maybe that's just because I'm used to seeing him. But yeah, the episode was incredible. It was one of the best hour-long hour-long television and I've seen in a while.
Oh yeah.
it just keeps getting better and better and better.
Like first episode, I was just kind of, oh, this is okay. Then second, I was like, okay, that's good. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fucking fantastic.
And it keeps getting better. I predict that.
Destiny.
Oh, hey, Destiny.
Hey, y'all. Sorry.
You're good.
I'm late to the party, but hello.
What did you think of episode 3?
I mean, I love it. Perfect. 10 out of 10. No notes.
Yeah.
No notes. No notes at all. It's completely different from the video game. Completely different. The most different episode of the series. And I think they hit it out of the park. Did you guys talk about the video game differences yet at all?
No.
No, we're just
about
giving
that.
our general thoughts. But if you want, let's start from there. So, the video game for The Last of Us actually is quite different, like Destiny said, from the episode. One of the big differences is that Bill himself is, I mean, he's really, Christine and I were on a Twitter Spaces earlier just before this, and one of our friends on the Spaces was discussing how Bill in the game is basically 2003 Bill. He doesn't really have that evolution like we see in the show.
Okay.
And he basically he isn't like killed the same way he's completely almost a different character in the game.
Okay.
And I'm Destiny, you could probably elaborate more on also some of the differences that you also think are very I think personally, I think they were great. I think they did a great job changing things up, but yeah.
Yeah. I guess where do I start really is the question. Yeah, in the game, let me start with saying that it's incredibly rich. All the things that they added, they literally turned essentially a handwritten note in the game into a 75-minute episode is what they did.
Incredible.
And it's literally that's
stellar.
Insane. Like that's insane that they did that. Because
that's talent.
That's everything. That's everything. Oh my gosh.
Shout out to the writers' room and Craig Mazin and everybody involved.
Everybody involved in the episode, really.
It's wild. It's wild to think about, because when you're in the game and you're playing as Joel and Ellie and they meet Bill, he's already alone. He doesn't know where Frank is. All he knows is that Frank has stole his stuff and he's gone missing, right?
Oh.
And so because Joel wants to still find that car battery. And so one of the things that is missing is the car battery. And Frank took the car battery, but I don't think Bill knows that he took it, but he knows that it's missing, right? So as they go through Bill's town, they run into different obstacles and stuff like that. But they literally Frank is dead when you already are there. He's already gone. He's not part of the story. And you find out that Frank killed himself. So trigger warning for anybody. And then you also find out in a letter that and this is optional. The letter's optional. So you can literally play the game and not even know. But in the letter, he says that he left Bill because he was tired of his increasing paranoia, basically.
Oh.
And he was just sick of living in an isolated situation. So to look at that and then to look at this episode, which kept kind of the same theme of like going out on your own terms, right? In a way. To look at that and just to look at how they actually brought Frank to life and gave him purpose, gave Bill meaning, and gave their relationship meaning from the sparse and dark narrative in the game, fucking phenomenal. Fucking phenomenal. And I mean, I kind of at first I was like, oh, maybe they'll just live, like maybe they'll just live and they won't do that. But then there's that moment where it's like 2010 and then like they start fighting and I was like, oh no, Frank is about to go, go run away and stuff like that. But then they changed the scene there. So I mean, I honestly like I was just like so enthralled and so thrilled by what they did, and lots of sex. Love that for us. Love that for everybody.
Yeah.
I love obviously they don't show them like actually doing the deed, but they show them leading up to the deed several times over.
How it did like that, and then it transitioned like 3 years later.
Right.
Yep.
So I'm like,
They go, so you're only gonna be there for a few days. Okay.
Right. Man, these gamers, man. We're getting spoiled. Getting spoiled. But I love seeing Nick Offerman in a vulnerable position.
Yeah. You don't ever see that. I've never seen Nick Offerman in a role like this. And I thought it was absolutely stellar the way that they approached it. And I think, and I predicted it the last time that they would renew it quickly. And now we got season 2, part 2. We got that coming now. So it looks like we knew it was probably coming, that this was going to be like, that they were going to be able to complete, part 1 and part 2. And it looks like that's what's going to happen. But I wouldn't be surprised if you start seeing those viewership numbers trickle upward and not downward as the season goes on. Because now there's going to be so much buzz over episode 3 that everybody's going to watch episode 1, 2, and 3. And it was phenomenal. My brother, he's played the game, and he finally, he wanted to watch it, and he finally got to watch it, and it blew him away. And he was saying to me, he's like, Tyler, the way that they have just literally, you see the scenes from the game, and it's so amazing. Like, I'm completely blown away by this. Like, there's no stopping this train. It's amazing. And I think, again, I thought the cinematography and I thought the editing in this episode were phenomenal. They keep nailing it. And I think HBO is definitely very happy with it.
I was picking up on some of the editing choices where did you notice there were several fades?
Yep.
Like they would fade to show, the passing of time.
Yep.
But it was something that I think even just the way they framed the episode with the dinner table, because at the first time you see the dinner table, you don't realize how important that table is going to be, and it serves 3 purposes really. It serves a purpose in the beginning when they really kind of fall in love with each other. I mean, they really fall in love at the piano, but at the start when he sees the nice food and everything, and then when he's trying to save his life and he's trying to dig the bullet. I think they were on the dinner table, right? When he was trying to save Bill's life, and then at the end with the Last Supper, essentially. And it was so moving. I want to just shout out to Nick Offerman's performance, because I mean, we've seen him play other roles. He's on the show Devs on Hulu, I believe. That's the one he's on, and he's also I saw him in Lucy in the Sky.
Yep.
Where that was another dramatic performance of him.
I mostly know him from Parks and Recreation.
But
and he's about to be in. Nick Offerman's going to have an amazing year. He's about to be in Dead Reckoning. I think it might be part 2.
Right.
I think it might be part 2 that he's in.
Now, Christina, since you only know Nick Offerman from Parks and Rec,
That was the main thing. I think I've seen him in other things. I just can't think of it off the top
Were
of my
you
head.
surprised at how how great of a dramatic actor he actually was? Because
No, because I mean he did some non like he did things that weren't just sitcom-y in Parks and Recreation. Like he actually showed emotions at times, and
yeah,
so
I mean,
like I knew he was a really good actor. I
I,
didn't know he was a good singer. That I did
yeah,
not
I
know.
didn't know that either.
Yeah.
I did not know that. I did not know that. I mean, that was actually.
That was a beautiful scene. I was crying in that scene.
Yep.
I personally feel he should be nominated for like an Emmy for maybe.
Oh, yeah.
But
I'd be shocked
what
if he did not get a guest Emmy.
Would it be a guest?
Yeah, it would
be
be guest, I believe, since he's only in
since
one
it's only
episode that I know of.
Him and Murray should get nominated, but
Mhm.
I think really Nick, because
Yeah.
even that kiss, I have not seen, a kiss like that on TV
Tyler, your
before, where
camera
that
went off.
they have never, really one found love with each other, but also they've been so separated from civilization. At least Bill has, that it feels like he's almost afraid at one point, but then he's embracing it, and he's like it. You could almost say that at first the kiss, it feels kind of weird because the way that he's like filled with emotion, like he's kind of almost pressing back, but then you realize that it's something that he's just in his heart afraid to really express himself, because he says, I've been with a woman once, but that was about it. Like in terms of he had sex with a woman once, but that was, I thought, such a powerful, powerful moment of the episode where they really, I think they made us really care about them, and that's something that it's really hard to do when, especially, you have such a limited time. This isn't a 9-episode series with Bill and Frank, which I kind of want now. I want like a Bill and Frank spinoff of just them living together for so long.
Yeah, man. Yeah, we need that.
But they did great at making it like one of the most beautiful gay love stories I've seen on a TV show, like within just like an hour. Like that's incredible. It was incredible. Were able to pull that off.
Yeah, it's basically like what I would call a bottle episode, where it's very specific. I mean, we don't even really, we get a lot in the beginning with Pedro and or with Joel and Ellie, where they like a cool thing too that you don't get in the game is that he drops literally how the virus happened and how the world collapsed basically over the course of a weekend. And so we get this like this little I don't know 20 minutes or whatever right beforehand, or 15 20 minutes, and then it launches into this very hyper specific zoom in of these two men's lives. And that's incredible. That's so good. That's so freaking good. And I know I get on the show a lot for doing flashbacks. They love one thing Last of Us is going to do is a flashback. That's one thing they're going to do. And I'm like, knock it off. But this one actually justified the usage of the flashback technique because we were literally cycling through an entire lifetime of these people. You do not see that in normal television, or if you do, it's through a course of a season, right? So crazy again that this script was so tight to 75 minutes and they managed to do that.
And I do think too they're justifying the flashbacks that they've had because it's added so much more texture to and rounded out the characters and the story itself. So I think it's they say that in screenwriting class, like don't do flashbacks, but I think with this they're doing such a good job with it, and I think it is as you all were saying, like I think it's phenomenal that of how I wonder if this episode will get nominated for the screenplay.
Oh yeah,
I think
this is the episode. If they have,
that's what I mean.
And I think you'll definitely be recognized at the GLAAD Awards next year.
Yeah,
this is the Emmys episode.
Yeah. I think it's phenomenal, and I think too, like still, I think the cinematography is so beautiful yet still so dark too.
How about that
Like,
scene with the infected when Ellie finds the infected beneath the rubble?
That was a great scene for me to pause at to go to the bathroom.
yep.
Yeah, just digging that knife.
I really
oh,
need to look that
when
picture off
she
my phone.
when she finds the pads, is that what you're talking about?
yeah,
Yeah.
when
Which,
she
funnily enough,
stabs
like
her.
a few moments before that, I was like, I wonder what will happen. Like what she does whenever she has like periods.
And
And
I
then
think
she
you don't
finds that. I was
really
like, oh, okay.
right, because they don't really talk about periods in these apocalypse shows because it's like
No.
the periods aren't going anywhere.
yeah,
So it's always funny, like in a zombie show, that you never see people
There-
shaving.
also,
You never see
yeah,
women shaving.
Yet they
Because
have
guys don't really have to shave, you know what I mean? And I mean, you know, like technically women don't either, but you know what I mean. Like,
yeah, yeah.
and you don't see the menstrual cycle, so
Don't
it's
even. It's not like
wild.
acknowledged.
Also,
Yeah.
I think it's
Well,
also very interesting that Ellie mentions that she has Asperger's too in it.
She does.
Yeah.
Yes, she does mention it. Yep. Yep.
Okay.
And I think that's very interesting too
Where did she
because
mention that at?
Yeah,
it
I'm wondering
was
the same
when
thing.
she was in the house and it's very quick, but I think it's when she was reading the letter or something and Joel took it, she mentions that she has Asperger's. I forget the whole context,
Hmm.
but it's like I maybe it's like I can follow or I have Asperger's. I can follow orders. That doesn't mean I can't follow orders or something like that. But I forget where she mentioned it. But it was very subtle. But I thought that was interesting.
You know, Destiny was discussing about like just the flashbacks earlier. So I want to start with the beginning of the episode because the beginning kind of shocked me with how it began because it didn't begin like the other two episodes. It began first off, it began just with the main titles. It didn't begin with a cold open. And then it also didn't really begin with a flashback. It began with Joel and Ellie. And I thought that was strange because I felt like it kind of in terms of a writing standpoint, I kind of felt like it if there was a pattern, it didn't quite have the pattern there because I thought every episode would have, you know, the flashback to another time. But then I think they kind of flipped and turned over our expectations by kind of putting the flashback in like the middle with Bill and Frank. And I loved how they did that scene with um the cloth, and then you saw how it flashes back to Bill and where he was living and them moving the people. So what did you guys think of just in general the decision to not begin with like a flashback?
I mean, it didn't take me out of it. I enjoyed it because it's also like, okay, this is what's going on. They've made some leeway too, which I thought was an interesting thing too. Like, it didn't start right away after they got out of the library. So I thought that was great with the fact that they showed that. I but but also like it may have not started as a flashback, but the whole pretty much the whole
Mhm.
episode was a flashback. So I think that was an interesting way to do it, and it didn't take me out of it.
Yeah. Did anyone else like? Did any of you guys find it at all like? Because I think one thing that's interesting is say if you do a binge watch, now you're going right into where the last episode left off. You're going right into Joel and Ellie. And it'd be very interesting to see, you know, on a binge how it works when, you know, going into episode one, then going into episode two. But I don't know. I'm very curious to see like how the other episodes begin. Will any other episodes start off with the flashbacks and go into the titles? But yeah, so then we start with Joel and Ellie, and then we go into this sequence that we were just discussing about her finding that one infected under the rubble. And I gotta say, like, after that scene, you have this amazing conversation between Joel and Ellie about what happened to the world once the I think it was September 26th
Yeah.
happened, outbreak day, and it said by Monday it only took them 4 days for them to really lose everything. And that's crazy to me because
Yeah.
it reminds me of like what happened with COVID-19, where you know, I remember like when I think it was the night Tom Hanks got COVID and a basketball player got COVID, and that was like the night that everything shut down. And then the next day, movies were getting delayed. People were grabbing toilet paper,
Oh,
all
God,
this and
toilet
that.
paper.
But like, it's crazy because like I think when we were playing the game, this was before the pandemic, so a lot of people kind of played this game not really thinking twice about the real life circumstances. But now it feels so relatable because you can imagine this actually happening. So what did you guys think of the whole story that like Joel was telling Ellie? And I also really loved how like they were bonding over that because then she's kind of like it was the first time we actually see them really, really I think connecting.
I thought it was interesting with the fact that they talked about air travel and how she's like,
Yes.
"Oh my god, you've actually flown in an airplane?" And he's like, "Oh yeah," and then they would give you like $12. You would have to pay $12 for a sandwich. I thought that was a cool thing. But it's funny that you mentioned toilet paper because when Ellie is looking and they're scavenging at Bill's place, she gets toilet paper out of the, which I thought was, I wonder if that
Smart.
was, yeah,
I
it is
think
smart.
it's also like a bit of a reference to the last
Yes,
episode
yeah,
because he gave her that newspaper.
yeah, yeah,
So it
yeah,
was like
yeah,
they
yeah,
needed that.
yeah,
They weren't stocked up with the toilet paper. So
yeah. You can't have enough. You can't have enough. We've all learned that, I guess. So I thought that was great too. So yeah,
yeah, I think that for me, I I thought great job pointing out the plane issue because he says that line where she's like, you got to fly in a plane, and he's like, they did too, and
yeah.
then you just see it's like
All the dead people. Yeah,
all the dead people.
it's like, oh god, like that's very morbid. But I thought that was a great rebuttal. I thought that was a great
Yeah,
like wise comment from Joel to Ellie too. Like I thought it was such a good. And again, I think that was such a cool transition and a
yeah,
great editing transition from when they're literally looking at those bodies after after they see the plane crash, and Joel kind of has to open Ellie to the reality of what it was like day 2, day 3 after after the outbreak. And I thought that was, but also, did it ever explain to you, did in the game, did they ever explain how the Fedra became what it was? Because in the episode, it was only like a week, 2 weeks after the the outbreak that Billstown got evacuated. So, and they had Fedra on their thing. I thought that was like it took only like a little bit for them to put the Fedra into place. I wondered about that, like if they ever
Yeah,
explained
I
that.
mean, no, not really.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
mean, you kind of just see camps set up, but I mean, I would assume that, I mean, it's kind of like I mean, I don't want to say exactly like, because as we've seen, as we're living through our own pandemic, that, which Ellie, LOL, might as well have turned to the camera and winked when she said that joke. But uh, you get like, FEMA, right?
Yeah,
FEMA like quickly immobilizes, right? Quickly immobilizes and goes to the crisis area.
yeah, that's true.
So I
Okay.
mean, the military just responded very quickly. I mean, we could see when the world was collapsing how fast the military set up blockades, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So the response was pretty quick. So I would assume that, Fedra. I mean, the Fedra is just another word for the military and for the police state.
yeah, that's true.
So I
Okay.
wouldn't say that it's a whole new, organization or anything like that. So
And didn't you find it funny too that that Frank is like, I'm not like you. I don't think the Nazis rule the world. And he's like, but they do now. And Frank is like,
Yeah.
but they didn't back then. Like, I
Yeah.
thought that was kind of interesting. Like,
There's
he-
That
there's
made
some
me
really
laugh.
great one-liners. That one's a
yes.
good one. And
Yeah.
then there's that one where they're sitting down. Bill and Frank and Tess and Joel are sitting down at lunch, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I forgot I'm with a paranoid schizophrenic." And then
Yeah.
Bill's like, "I'm not
Yeah.
schizophrenic, right?" It's like these little jokes are
Yeah.
so funny.
I think this episode they keep killing it, and I think that's such a beautiful thing that this will be a stamp on film and TV history that will be looked at for decades to come because it changed the game, and we get to be a part of it. We get to see this happen, so it's
And I
cool.
think to your point earlier, something that surprised me about the beginning was uh or rather to your point about the beginning and Ellie seeing that airplane, something that surprised me at the end is the car.
Yes.
She doesn't know was it
Yeah.
she doesn't know what a car was? She didn't know what
Yeah.
a seatbelt
She had,
was, but I
yeah,
knew she knew what a
I don't
car
think
was.
she
Spaceship.
was in a car.
She called it a
Yeah.
spaceship. Yeah.
Yeah.
A
And
spaceship.
and then Joel's like, put your seatbelt on, and she just stares at him. And then he's like, oh yeah, like to himself, obviously he's like, oh, he just does it for her because she doesn't know. And I
That's
was like,
like a
damn,
dad
that's
scene.
crazy. You know what I mean?
Oh,
That's so crazy to think
did
about.
you guys get a sense of like I could just see him seeing Sarah in this entire situation, like when she puts the seatbelt on. I'm just thinking of like the
Yeah.
last time we
And then
Oh
the
my
saw
next,
God. Yeah.
Joel in the
Yeah.
car was with Sarah,
Yeah.
and then also there was the comment he made
Uh-oh.
when they're
Okay.
talking about what happened, and they're talking about he says the pancake mix or the
Yep.
pancake
Yep.
batter,
I'm
and
like, oh God.
you see the look on Pedro's face, and like just for me, I think Pedro Pascal, he has to get an Emmy for the show. He just what he's doing. This isn't Pedro Pascal that I've seen before. Like, of course, it's still Pedro Pascal, but at the same time, I feel he's really tapping into another side of himself that I haven't seen, and it's something that going into it, I'm like, would I just see Pedro Pascal or would I see Joel? And I see Joel,
I,
and it's all Pedro is really doing such an amazing. He's really giving such a great performance here.
and I think it's really great too. And this is kind of off topic, but it's still funny that the way that Pedro looks in this series almost represents like he looks almost like my dad does right now, which I
Yeah,
think is hilarious. And I'm like, oh my God, like it's the old man Logan look, like the scruff. I'm just like, oh my God, this is just it's too comical. Like he looks like my dad right now, which I thought was really
yeah.
funny. I'm like, and I think I think you're right. I think he should get a nomination and he should win for this. Um, I think it's going to be very hard to beat the show. And again, I think it's amazing that I
the
predicted,
competition is going to be the White Lotus. So
yeah, yeah. And I think this
Oh yeah.
and I think also like
Yeah.
I think it's amazing with the fact that they have already again renewed it for season 2, which starts part 2. I think that's something that is amazing with the fact that it was only 2 episodes in and it already got greenlit because of how the numbers have gone. And yeah, it's phenomenal. I'm so
Now, yeah, I think it's also interesting because, like you mentioned, it was only 2 episodes in, which I don't remember with House of the Dragon
I
it
think
might
it
have
was. I think it was around the same.
and when
yeah,
they
I
was
think
it
it
two
was like
episodes
3 or
into
4. I think
Yeah,
you're right
Because
though.
House
I
of the
think you're
Dragon had bigger numbers on the premiere day.
yeah.
yes. I mean
But
that.
it had a
Yeah,
bigger following. It had already, I think that's the thing
There's
too
no
that
need to defend Last of Us. It was just the way it is.
yeah, 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 yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
I
I
think
mean, yeah. With Last of Us though, I think what we're seeing is the non gamers are really watching this show.
Mhm.
Was my biggest question going in. Will non-gamers get into this? And I mean, Christina, you are a non-gamer yourself. Do you think that this show, I mean, you don't feel like you're lost in any way because you haven't played the game. You don't feel like you're, wondering why does everybody love this game so much? It's not that good. Like, you are enjoying it as like. What do you think about that? Do you think that they're doing a great job at
Yeah, I think they're doing a good job of
making
all.
it?
Kyle, you keep breaking in and out.
Yeah.
Oh,
But I know understand your question. I think, but yeah, they do a good job of like making it a TV show so non gamers can watch it and enjoy it. Um, I mean, I don't know if I enjoyed it as much as gamers for like the first episode, but then I started really getting into it after the second episode.
hmm
Um, but I think they are doing a great job of for non gamers.
I do wonder. I mean, say a PlayStation was affordable enough. Like, say, like, you could just. I mean, honestly, you don't even need to get PlayStation. If you could, Christina, would you play the game?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think
Because
I think
which
that's
I
the
which I think that it's going to come on PC at some point.
this
Or
year.
if it isn't,
This year. This
Is it
year.
It's not on here. It's not on there yet.
It should be within the next couple months, I think. But yes, it's
Fair
definitely
enough.
going to get on PC. I think this is going to. I think too. Like I think the numbers are going to keep exploding for the game itself. Like I think it's like like the re-releases that they do for those big movies like Avatar when Avatar did the re-release. I think
10,000 releases.
yeah the 10.
that's why though. That's why like they used to do the movie tie-in games, and they would make them release right around the time the movie came out. Avatar, they were going to make this game, Frontiers of Pandora, and they were hoping it would release, in time for Way of Water, but it's probably going to be lucky if it releases, when Avatar 3 comes out. But
Yeah.
like that's what they do, and thankfully they have the game already out in Last of Us, and they have The Last of Us Part 2 out, so definitely a lot of people will definitely be, I think, buying that game. And it's going to be one of the first times, I bet, that game sales are doing really well based on a video game adaptation, because most of the time video game adaptations are not very good, and because of that, it's people aren't going to be like, oh, I'm going to go buy this game now. But this is one of those rare exceptions where we're seeing a game or a TV show where it's going to make people like Christina, even Tyler, I bet you want to play the game that
Yeah.
the parts you haven't played.
Yep. And for
yeah.
sure. But the cool thing that I think that is amazing about this, I'm an Xbox gamer. I've
Yeah.
been that way all my life, and
Traitor.
PlayStation. Well, we'll have her just day when Starfield comes out finally. I think that's going to be amazing. I think that's going to be a big thing, but I do find it very interesting though that PlayStation has been killing it on the story
Oh, yeah.
front with their games. And PlayStation can now say, well, we're now killing it in the TV film adaptation world now too with this.
Mhm.
And I wouldn't be surprised either if we hear rumblings that Druckmann got a raise for this.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if he got like a raise from how well this is doing, because I think, as much as it is like they never in the beginning of the episodes they never mention PlayStation, do they? Do they ever mention
Like in the credits, you mean? Like when it opens? Yeah, it says created by matter
Naughty
of
Dog?
fact, there's a little bit of a controversy about the credits because Neil's not the only person who created and
Oh
directed
yeah,
the
I
game.
remember that.
And
Yeah,
that other man whose name escapes me. I'm sorry to that man. As
yes,
he
yeah,
says. But he's not crediting that man. But no, there's a reference to Based on the Games by Neil Druckmann or something. It's at the very beginning.
okay,
So
yeah,
next time when you're watching, you'll see like right before the title comes up.
Okay.
It's
Okay, cool.
based on that.
So, to get back to the show itself, I gotta say, like, when it comes to Bill and Frank, I thought the sequence when you see um the the raiders, whoever those people were that were coming into the
I thought that was
town.
awesome. I thought that was
Are
great.
you talking about cinematography, Tyler?
Yeah, they
That
lit that so well.
so well lit, so
Yeah,
well lit.
and
Game of
it
Thrones could never.
oh my god, Game of Thrones can never, and that's a fact because I thought it was also it reminded me of the Watchmen series and the beginning of the Watchmen series. There was that raid that happened on that
Yeah,
militant compound, and it reminded me of that. You could see everybody, and it was still pitch dark. I thought that was absolutely that was one of the things that I was like, holy shit, this is so cool because you have your lights off and that scene was awesome in the dark. Shout out to the stuntmen who did that scene and the stunt coordinator and the second unit director who helped do that scene
And
because they
whoever made
did.
it so you can actually see it.
Yes,
Now,
They need to get some tips to the Game of Thrones people.
dude,
Yep.
I'm interested because when I was watching that scene when Bill gets shot, I mean, as someone who played the game, I'm like, oh, he's not dead. But I mean, I didn't know, he would die later on in the show in a very different way. But to you guys, Christina and Tyler, like that didn't play that game, that part. Did you guys think Bill was dead when like he just kind of
I
yeah
had a feeling he wasn't gonna die, but at the same time, I did also feel like he was dead. And then they did the flash forward, and it was kind of far for me, or I just wasn't paying close enough attention. I actually thought it was him in the wheelchair for a second.
Me
I was
too,
like, wait,
me too.
Yeah.
okay, I'm glad I wasn't the only one.
Yeah.
I wonder if they did that. I wonder if they did that intentionally, so you'd think that.
I thought that there was a second. There was like a split second. I thought he was gonna die when it looked like Overman's eyes glass over. When
Yes.
you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
I
know
thought that
exactly
was
what
a
you mean. I
perfect
thought he
fake
was
out.
like,
I thought that was then thinking back on it, that was a perfect fake out.
that was.
I was like, oh shit, fuck, really? He's gonna die right now? Damn it!
You
And then
know, yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
go ahead. I'm
Mm-mm.
done. I'm done.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think he was done.
I
think
was
he
done. I was literally done, Destiny. You're good.
I think the only criticism I can pull out of this episode is that scene, actually, because it feels weird. It feels like there should have been something after, because that time period is so short. We go from strawberries
Oh yeah.
to Raiders, right? We go from strawberries to Raiders. Either it should have been a part of the Joel thing, and then they could have like expressed some time later, or there needed to be like a scene where he woke up and he was fine, and then they could have cut from there. You know what I mean? Because that was kind of weird. Like to me, it didn't feel. I guess maybe it was supposed to feel like a little like a like a okey doke or something, like a like a oops, or I don't know, like a reverse, right? With because you see Frank is not doing so well just
Yeah.
after that. It's like, oh, it's not Bill you had to worry about, it's actually Frank or whatever, right? But like I felt like that was a weird editing choice. I felt like it needed something else, or they should have cut it out because nothing even really came from it. But they did want to show you, I guess, that Bill was right, or that they wanted to show you that he was still thinking about Joel, or like, because it's like it doesn't quite, whatever it is, it doesn't quite fit really. But we don't sit there that long to really figure out why it doesn't really fit. But that would be my only complaint, is that scene right there is just kind of like it needed something else, something afterwards, I think. Um, but yeah, then bleeding into Frank being old, you know.
Before we go on that, Destiny, I want to ask you: do you think this episode should have had more action in it? Because this is something that as a gamer, you're very used to, especially the level in Bill's part of the game is a very challenging level from what I remember. And I was like, I thought we were going to get that, but we didn't. Did you think that we needed more action, or do you think that it's working for where the show's going and kind of more so focusing on the character moments?
I think this episode is special because it doesn't have a lot of action. I think The Last of Us, having seen the whole thing, I think it does best when it breathes. I think the show really sings when they do less in certain instances. And considering how action packed the first two episodes were, this is a breath of fresh air. So to me, I'm okay with the lack of action, and I think just having it be two people is a testament to the writing. And is a testament. Can you keep my attention by doing the bare minimum? Like, I'm in. So, but I'm a writer. I'm a writer watcher, or I don't know what the term is I want to use, but I'm a person who looks for good writing more than I look for anything else. If your writing is not good, but your action is good, I'm still probably going to have some stuff to say. You know what I mean? But if you're, yeah, it's all about strong writing to me. Because
Yeah.
if you can't keep me interested, then what's the point? I don't care if you have all the explosions and zombies coming out. If your plot sucks, like, fuck you.
Yeah, I think
And the writing was great in this episode.
Yeah.
It's very strong writing.
Yeah, and I think too, I don't think the little action in it would have worked because again, this is a different medium, and they needed to find the strengths that a TV show would have, and that's what made this episode so strong. Is it relied on its characters. It didn't rely on external threat to make that work. And yeah, I don't think it needed it. It had enough to show it, to prove Joel was right with the fact that there would be raiders that would come.
Yeah.
That's exactly what it needed. It's like, okay, there's still that threat. People are getting desperate as the years go by. And that's exactly what Joel was warning about. So,
and is kissing not action?
Yeah, that is action. That's action.
We're getting some action.
Action, but I do want to mention Stefan. I hope I'm saying that right.
Yeah.
Or Stephen. I don't know, Stefan. I do want to. So they could have kept. They could have kept where Ellie meets Bill and should have gave Joel and Ellie a little more screen time. I think that they had just enough screen time there at the beginning. We learned what we needed to learn. We even learned that Tess and Frank were the ones that came up with the radio code later.
Yeah, that's cool.
But I think they had enough time at the beginning. But I also do feel that, like, as a person of the games, because they cut out a lot of Ellie and Bill's dialogue that they share, and they do cut out time from Joel and Ellie a lot. But this episode was not about Joel and Ellie. It was about Bill and Frank. So that's why I think their absence is okay, because they really wanted to squeeze and redeem their fate in the video game.
Yep.
So I think that's okay. And then they took out the Bloater High School, which I haven't seen anything online just yet. But I am waiting for those hot takes because they took out the biggest boss battle of all time.
I think it's also very interesting. What were we just talking about? Oh my god, I blanked out.
What were we? We're talking about screen time, Bill and Ellie.
Bloater High School.
Radio code.
The radio. I thought so. That was the thing that I thought about too. Was Bill and Frank the one that dropped "I'm taking a ride with my best friend"? Was he the one that put that on the radio for Joel and them to hear at the end of episode 1? Do we know?
You're talking about the Depeche Mode song?
Yeah, the Depeche.
Yeah. So the Depeche. So we're supposed to figure out that the Depeche Mode song was the result of their death because Bill couldn't reset the thing. So that's why when
I didn't.
Joe was like, cool. He couldn't reset he was dead. He couldn't reset the time or whatever.
Oh, that's so cool.
Also, if I'm going up into somebody's house and they dead, like, I'm asleep. Why didn't they? They didn't sleep. They just showered and left. Like, no, I'm about to eat some food. I'm about
Yeah.
to sleep, shower, and then we can head out to
Yeah, like take a night. Just take a night
Yeah,
to
like,
rest
Maybe,
take
the hell
maybe
out.
the food had gone bad. Maybe some of the
Take
food
a-
had gotten bad.
No, but then you see
no,
the
but they had
refrigeration.
strawberries and
Yeah.
carrots
Yep.
and shit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long between whenever they died in that episode were there? Like how long were they dead?
August
That
29th, right?
oh, do we know?
Yeah, they said it in the letter. I think it was August 29th, and I forget what day they're on in the show, but they talk about that. Yeah. They put the date on the top of the letter. I forget what date
Yeah,
they're
it
in.
was
Like,
about like August 20 something,
Yep.
2023.
But I forget what
Do we
day
know
they're.
what day that the episode took place on?
No,
I'm not
but
sure.
I feel like
but
they weren't
You
dead
see
that
the
long.
food.
But
The
they weren't
food.
dead that long. It wasn't going to be that long. And that's the reason why they kept the window open, was like, we don't want the house to
I was
stink
wondering,
out.
like, how did they not realize? How did the house not smell? And
Yep.
these two people died in it.
No,
Yeah.
and then they answer that. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
They
Yes.
answer it as soon as you ask it. As soon
Yeah.
as you fucking ask it, that question is already. That took me out the first time I watched it.
Yeah.
I was like, but it smells. And then there was like, no,
Like-
I left the window open. It's like, oh my
Like-
god. They
He's
thought
like,
of everything. They
like,
thought of
how is it-
periods.
Like, why are you looking for them? Can't you smell the dead bodies?
Right.
Yeah.
We left the window open so the house wouldn't smell.
Thinking
Yeah.
of everything.
I'm very curious though, Stefan, Steven, what have you played the game? Because how do you feel, since you really are you loving the adaptation, you can comment, in there. But yeah, like I'm really looking forward to where Joel and Ellie go in the future, because I think this was the episode where they really were starting to bond a bit, that the other two episodes didn't quite get there because they just met. But let's go back to with when we found out that Frank is supposedly sick. Do we guys have a theory on what he was suffering from? Was it
I don't know.
cancer maybe?
No, I thought it was maybe Parkinson's or something.
Yeah, because he couldn't paint.
They couldn't, but they also say there's no
Yeah.
cure for it.
Mm.
There's no cure for it, and I do think Parkinson's does make
Tyler, you
does
might be
make
right.
you
You
immobile.
might be right.
Like I one of my a teacher that I have known literally since I was in preschool, who still calls me on my birthday. That's
Aw.
She is a god saint. She's family. I've known Mrs. P since I was in preschool, and she has Parkinson's. That's what I thought it was. It's like there's no way that this can get, and also the MRI, because I think it's a brain thing too. I think it's a brain thing. So it's like there's no MRI around. There's nothing we can do.
Oh, yeah.
And even before that, he's like, there's nothing that can be done. Even before this happened, there was nothing that could be done. And he couldn't walk. And I think that was also a part of the Parkinson's thing, is like there comes a point when you're wheelchair bound.
Feels
That's what
much
I thought.
better- feels
That
much
is
better than
such
that.
a good take, because I just went to cancer because then they make that radiology joke or whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I
true.
think
Yeah,
I
no,
saw
his
her as
hands
well.
are shaking. Yeah, his
Yeah.
hands are shaking, and because some people are gonna be like, it's AIDS, and I'm just like, it's not AIDS, guys.
No, like that's such a bad
Huh?
take.
Yeah,
That's so
no,
bad.
there's. I'm
Don't
already
make
seeing
hate.
homophobia
God damn it.
out the
Uh-huh.
window. But yeah, that's a really good point. I didn't think of Parkinson's. But either way, too, I thought it was funny. I was like, what are these pills? Like, you just got
Damn.
like they
Yeah.
just got you pills
I
from
wonder
TV
if it
just
was like
to
poison.
figure out
I
like what
wonder-
you're taking.
Yeah, I wonder what it was. Like they never explained it, but going to that scene, when they sat down, I'm like, I had a feeling that bottle was taint. Like the way that Offerman was looking at Bill was looking at Frank, I'm like, oh fuck, they're about to do Romeo and Juliet thing right here.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
about
I
to
felt that way too.
yeah, and it was just like, oh god, like that makes it even more heartbreaking. But I think as well, it was beautiful. It was so beautiful.
So
Like there's
romantic.
nothing left in the world for them. So why write it out alone? I agree with that. I would be, I think that was such a great, and I think too that was like, from Bill's like last bit of last loving gesture that he could do is like, I don't want to ride this out with anybody else. I want to ride it out with you, and we're going to ride it out to the very end together. So I thought
He
that was
probably
great.
would have ended up killing himself at some point anyway.
Yes. Yep.
Because he would have been alone.
Yep.
Like he wouldn't have like other people like counsel him like we would in these days. So he probably would have just ended up dying of broken heart anyways. And he probably
Yep.
knew it.
Yep.
And I really, I think that, oh boy, I think I just lost my train of thought. Destiny, where were we gonna go?
Did you guys cry? I mean, I think we should break
Yes.
down kind of the death scene. Like it basically it's assisted suicide.
Yes.
And again,
Yep.
trigger warning for
Euthanasia.
anybody.
Yep.
But that's what it is. So in the game, it turns from this dark situation where Frank is frustrated, and I mean, to be fair to Frank, he also got bitten by some infected in the game, so it's like he died because he got bitten by infected, he want to turn. But also in his note, he specifically says to Bill, I'd rather be out here than with you, right? And he doesn't even want to tell him like what the situation is. He'd rather just die in isolation and all that stuff. In this one, the power of Frank's decision is that it's his own decision. Now I could see maybe in the coming days or maybe tonight or wherever, that people making the argument for saying that this isn't a love story, that this is not something that is, cute or whatever. Like, we shouldn't be, I don't want to say supporting assisted suicide, right? But I could see the argument, you know what I mean? Like I could see where people can kind of go with that. But I think what makes it powerful with the way that the show tells it is that it is Frank's decision. And then on top of that, Bill supports him, this decision, by joining him, but also by saying this isn't the tragic suicide at the end of the play.
Yes.
Right?
I love that.
That
Yes.
is such a great line to say. And then, he's like, I'm old, I'm satisfied. You were my purpose. Right. So it's not like, oh, woe is me. We, when it first started, when Frank first told him what he wanted to do, because Bill had to sit there and kind of like process this thing that his companion, his lover, his everything was telling him. And yeah, he wouldn't have survived that.
I want to draw attention though. They played a piece of music, piece of score. I believe it's from Sunshine, or it could be another film. It's an iconic score. Like I've heard it before. That it's played through the montage of Bill and Frank basically getting ready, getting married, getting ready for it. And that is where I started to get really like teary eyed, and I was really getting emotional because you start to realize that, I mean, they've known each other for 20 years. Oh no, how long? When? No,
20.
it's 2007, right?
Yeah, 2007.
Yeah,
2007. So 26 years? 26?
I can't do math, so
Yeah, I can't do math either right
six-
now.
YOLO.
16 years.
Yeah,
So
that's still,
they-
and I think
yeah.
I think it's an interesting argument to make that you shouldn't be for assisted suicide, but I do think that in the circumstances, he would have been alone. He didn't have anybody else that he wanted, Bill wanted to trust. Why would you want to live your life like that?
And like you said, he was already old.
Yes.
So he probably
Yes.
wasn't manual looking, and it's the apocalypse. The situations are different.
Yep.
So I want to draw attention quick to some of the comments here. Stephen, thank you so much for on here and commenting. I just hope for episode 4 we get to see more action and
I
more
think that
Joel and
will happen.
Ellie and the original characters, more screen time. I do agree. I was a bit so I was watching this episode with my dad, and my
Uh-oh.
dad
Is he fro-
came to this episode. I think I'm cutting out a bit. When it came to this episode, my dad said there's like no action here, and the thing is like Destiny said though, this is a good breath of fresh air when it comes to this episode because you kind of had that action in the, especially the last episode, and I think for me, I agree with Steven here though. I do want to see more action. I think
Yeah,
saw a little bit of it in the preview for next week. Um, but yeah, I think though what they did was just brilliant, and it shows you that you don't have to stay, entirely faithful to a game, having every scene be exact in order to tell a great story. That's what is great, so great about adaptation, because if it was so much like the game, it would be like the Lion King, and it would probably feel a bit soulless. So
and
yeah,
the way also my brother, again, this was a comment that my brother brought up about the Last of Us game, is it's not all action packed. He said, like, he talked about on how the deaths are brutal because of the fact, like, it's not like a spray 'em up shooter kind of a game. So, and I do agree that I would like to see a little bit more action, but I think it's a brilliant way that they have done it where they flip the script on this episode.
yeah,
I did not expect this episode to be a love story. Like that was such a
hmm
great like that was a as Destiny said, that was such a breath of fresh air. And it's like it it centered me a little bit and got me even more invested in the episode. So I do agree, but I think the next episode we should be seeing Joel's brother in this next episode because they talk about that at the end of the episode. He was once one of the Fireflies. He should know where maybe to go next.
yeah.
So I think we are going to see more. And again, this is only the third episode. We still have 6 more to go. So I think there's a lot more to tell, and I'm excited to see where they flip the script again because I think they're going to make more bold choices like this, and it's going to be divisive. There's going to be those hardcore gamers that would literally like it to be shot for shot for shot for shot for shot for shot. But
Which actually sounds like it would be terrible if it was.
yes,
Not
yes,
because the game sounds terrible, because then it'd be like overly
yep,
predictable,
yeah.
and
I
stuff
wouldn't.
like that.
No, why would you want to watch the same thing twice like that? Like
Exactly.
I don't. Yeah, and it's like
Then watch
okay,
the game if you want that.
yes,
And
watch the cutscenes.
let's be honest though, like you can't really replicate the game. You can only adapt it. And I think that, especially when you look at the performances of Pedro and of Bella, you're talking about two actors that, I mean, I think I would say Pedro's a little bit more similar to Troy Baker than Bella is to Ashley Johnson, but it's still like, to me, both of them are still different. Like you're not watching the same exact Joel from the game, the same exact Ellie from the game.
And
You're
that's not
watching
what
the
they
same
wanted.
tape.
And that's
Exactly.
and that's not what
Exactly.
they wanted. Like and
It
works.
wouldn't be fun to write something if you're just copying it, like everything from the source material.
It's so wild to me, I think, that this kind of thing can bite you in the ass, right? We've seen it many times with Cowboy Bebop would be the most recent example.
Yeah.
Netflix's Cowboy Bebop, where I personally don't think they should have got canceled. I think they should have got a second season. But
Same.
people got mad because it wasn't nearly shot for shot, right? Because they completely changed the script, and they kept true to the character's core, but they changed a lot of integral parts. This one, I was worried. This episode in particular, I was worried about just because I know, like, the fervent fan base of the games. But I mean, like, I had no issues with it as a gamer. But this could have gone very wrong. So far, everything's really positive. It's like I mentioned, there's a couple of people who are kind of like gays or whatever, but for the most part, everyone's super happy, gamers and non-gamers alike. And so this could have gone a totally different way. And who knows, maybe, people will simmer on it Monday, Tuesday. What did Joel say? Come Monday, everything was gone, right? So
Yeah.
Destiny, you said here last week you were very interested to see how people, especially the gamers, would respond to this episode, and
yeah,
you're seeing that it mostly is positive, which is really good. Steven's comment here, I'm all for the TV show of The Last of Us to add more to the story and maybe
breaking up again, Kyle.
Change a couple of things, not cut out too much. And I think the thing is when it comes to this storyline, they are sticking to the storyline.
Yes.
The main beats are there. It's just that they're trying to make it at least a different experience for even the gamers themselves, but not doing it to the point where it's unrecognizable. And I think, I haven't seen the end of this show, but I think that they're on a path where they will stick to it. I personally, I did like Cowboy Bebop at the beginning, but I thought the ending just deteriorated and it felt very rushed. The entire last 2 episodes of that show were some of the most rushed, I think, ways to end a season that I had seen in quite a while. And I think hopefully when it comes to The Last of Us, they tie it together. For sure it will be renewed. There's no chance they're canceling this. So I think that we will see that story continue. So our friend Louis.
Oh, it
Louis
got renewed.
here,
It's renewed for season 2. Kyle.
Cowboy Bebop? No, it's not.
No.
So,
Oh, I thought that's what I thought you
Yeah.
were talking about.
Yeah,
The
no.
Last of Us.
Famously canceled.
Yeah, it got
not gonna
Yeah,
get
yeah,
canceled.
yeah.
It is HBO, so Zaslav could come in here and be like, chop, chop,
I
On The Last of
dare
Us
him.
Part 2.
I
Kyle,
double
if you
dog
bet,
dare
oh,
him to cancel
if there
those.
Could
was
you
a bet
imagine?
that it wouldn't that it would get canceled, I would say I would not put any money down on that. There's no freaking way in hell that's gonna happen.
And you know
Yeah.
what? Even if he did, you know how many streamers would pick this shit up? I bet you Amazon would be.
Yes,
PlayStation
they're
shows. They
kicking
got a
their
war.
stuff.
Netflix even.
Yep.
Yeah. So
So
Paramount could
no,
pick
we
it
don't
up.
want that. We don't want that one.
So Louis in here. Hi, Louis. He says, "I love that they're adding more themes to the original story. More action is this episode is just good, no action
Yep.
and all." And I fully agree.
I
the fact
completely
that-
agree with you, Louis.
Yep.
Yeah.
Love you, Louis.
Think about this. We got a TV show. I think The Walking Dead, if I remember, had some episodes where they didn't really have action, and they were so boring. They
Yep.
were so just you could barely watch them. They were incredibly hard to watch.
Yep.
And it's one of the reasons why I stopped watching the show, because some of those
It
episodes
was like feeding,
just
but
dragged on.
and I think that just goes to show you too that there's a different fan base that comes to The Last of Us, because The Walking Dead. Again, I know a lot of people that worked on The Walking Dead, and they dedicated thousands and thousands of hours on set to make it work. But I do think they just sat back and were just feeding slop, and the fans would just keep eating what they were giving, no matter
People were
what.
dedicated.
Yeah, they're dedicated.
Just like me
And-
finishing this season of Flash.
Yeah, and it's like, I think that's where they lost it. And it's
Mhm.
like, oh yeah, they're gonna just eat up whatever we give them, and that's true, but that's not good storytelling. And I think that was also like they're not. I don't think this team is resting on their laurels at all, and they poured their heart and soul into it and they also are. They want to make sure that this is as right as they can be. And again, I'm really interested to see where else they deviate, and I wonder how much the end. I wonder if they're gonna tweak the ending at all. That's kind of my thinking is like, oh, maybe they could be doing something spicy with how they're doing the ending. I don't think it will change, but I wonder if there's certain things that they do with it that will change, and it will be welcoming, and also it's going to create debate. I wonder about that. I don't think it's going to, I think they're going to stick the landing overall, but I'm really curious to see where else they deviate to add more to the lore.
I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to see if there's anything I can tease from the next couple episodes. There's definitely more character expansion to be had.
Good.
I will
Okay,
go with
cool.
that.
Okay, that's cool. That's great. That's great.
What was I think there was. If what was the ending? I'm trying to remember. There was something about the ending I did want to address. Um, I can't remember now, but I think when it comes to the show too, I really, I really do love how we're starting to see. I mean, as I mentioned before, Pedro and Bella Ramsey just have such incredible chemistry, and I think that it's only just going to improve as the episodes build. And I don't know what it is, but it's kind of like when I'm watching it, it's we've seen this again, like in say Logan with um, Hugh Jackman, Daphne Keane, but she was much younger. But we've seen the mentor, the father figure with the child. We've also seen in the case of this show, we've
Uh-oh.
seen that like up in this house and has basically um, been preparing for the apocalypse or is prepared for. I can't think of the show off of my top of my head, but I've seen countless ones like that, and I think that
Uh-oh.
this
Uh,
show
Joe's
just
having a hard
works.
time.
Murray Bartlett.
Did I freeze?
Yeah, you did. A little
Oh
bit,
no!
buddy.
Oh
You're good.
no!
You're good. You're good.
So I think what I was just trying to say was that I like how the show really kind of flips the tables on what we're expecting because when it comes to like Bill and um, Bill and Frank, we're really getting a beautiful like gay love story that you know we don't really even see in gaming, to
Yep.
be honest. Because I mean I can't quite think of I mean Destiny. Have you played any games as of late that had gay characters at the forefront?
I mean, that depends on which fandom I'm reading into, right? If I look at Kingdom Hearts, you might say that
Yeah.
Sora might be
Yep.
considered gay with a couple of characters, but I think that's just fodder. But no, to Tyler's point and to your point now, um, the writing, like, it's not just an action game, The Last of Us. It's definitely about the
Yep.
humans. It's definitely about, like, here's the infected, but also here's these humans, and how do you make human connection? I mean, Ellie starved for human connection, Joel starved for human connection. Their journey is all about connecting and finding a place where they can be safe, or amongst also finding the cure for the infection via Ellie's blood or whatever they're going to do. But uh, in terms of gay stories in video games, no, there's nothing as dynamic and rich. And The Last of Us changed. That's the impact The Last of Us has on the gaming industry, is that when that game came out, it got accoladed for its story. And games have been trying to reach that level ever since. And there's some games that are successful at storytelling, but necessarily queer characters, I can't really. I think I play some pretty macho heterosexual
How
Man,
dare
games, and,
you?
and by macho heterosexual games, I mean The Sims, very heterosexual game,
Oh yeah, totally. I mean,
very straight.
yeah,
Uh,
no, they would never
then you
allow
have
gays in that
the
game.
very gay Final Fantasy VII with the guy with the big sword on his back. Yeah, very gay. And
Modern Warfare.
Right, modern, yeah, exactly. Call of Duty, Modern Warfare, Dead
Yeah,
Space.
you never see two guys kissing in that game.
But yeah, kissing over our rifles, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah,
shit blowing up. Yeah, you never
just
see
dudes
that.
being guys, guys being dudes and guys being bros, on their on their stakeout. Yeah, no, that's definitely a gay game.
No, but I would say this: the kind of chat that you hear sometimes from these guys, you would think they were in a closer bromance, though.
Maybe
So,
they are. Don't
maybe
judge
they are.
them.
Yeah.
But
Let them
I mean,
live their lives.
going to Bill and Frank though, it should be noted that like this isn't like oh these are supporting characters then they die. They get an entire episode
Yep.
dedicated to
Correct.
them, which
Yeah.
also I mean that breaks television boundaries because usually like if you have say a gay character introduced, you'll kill them off in
Yeah.
10-minute span. I don't want to spoil things because some people, here haven't played the game.
Oh,
But
I spoiled, so sorry to everybody.
Well, when it comes to Last of Us Part 2, the amount of, gay representation we get in that game really kind of, I think breaks a lot of barriers in the game itself, where this is something that it is a part of the core of the Last of Us storylines and the games themselves that they do deal with, LGBTQ plus stories. But this one, I love that we're getting the male, what it's like to be, am I breaking up or no?
You're
No,
good.
for once
I'm
you're
good.
not.
Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
No, but like we're actually getting to see two men on television, which also like I mean, yes, he has like Parkinson, but it's not
You're breaking up now.
like
Yeah, you're breaking up, buddy.
Oh no. Well, we try our best, but you know what I mean. Like it's something that it's so refreshing and so beautiful to see this representation on screen for two gay men on a show like this too, because it's not like at least with Tyler, like Tyler, you say you didn't expect to see a love story at this point. Like this was something that
and I didn't
Anyone
know.
was expecting this.
Yeah, and
No.
I thought
Like this beautiful of a love story.
Well, the way that I thought about it too was when they mentioned Bill and Frank, I thought they were just good friends.
Mhm.
Like that was what I thought. And then when they got deeper into it, I'm like, oh, okay, that's a passionate look right there. So then I'm like, oh, this is okay.
I kind of got the vibes.
Yeah.
Early.
The vibe was there for sure. And I'm like, oh,
I was like, okay, should I be shipping this or not?
Yeah,
Because I'm already kind of shipping this.
yeah. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is.
We
that
were all
was
shipping
cool.
it.
That was like,
We were
oh,
all shipping it.
and I think that's the beautiful thing about not having played the game is I can be very surprised by what they did, and it's a great thing. And I think too there's going to be a lot of people, there's going to be a lot of hateful shit that's going to come out from people about this episode. And it's just
what? Fuck them.
Yep, Neil Druckmann and everybody else, they're rolling to the bank and they're pushing film and TV boundaries even further. And my brother made a comment. My brother texted me after he watched the first 2 episodes. He said it's almost shot for shot from the game, which is true, like from the first 2 episodes. Yeah. And he's like, and he said, Tyler, they haven't changed shit from the video game. I'm so excited. This is going to put video game storytelling into the mainstream, man. And I think that is true. I think, and you're going to start to see the cheap video game adaptations. We're definitely going to see that, with
we already have.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Super Mario Brothers, the movie.
Yeah, I think we're gonna
the old one, not the new one. But who knows?
I think we're gonna see the floodgates open with that, and the way that I was saying,
waiting for the dark Super Mario Brothers TV show.
Oh my God, I cannot wait for something like that. That'll be fun.
But this is what Druckmann had been stating, where he wants people to watch this show and not be like, oh, it's a video game. He wants them to be like, wait, this is a video game?
Yeah.
because that's what this is. Like, this is quality HBO. Like, this episode we watched tonight, this is one of the best
Uh-oh, again.
episodes that's saying something when they have that quality. When they
Yeah.
have House of the Dragon, White Lotus, Westworld.
Yeah. And I think that's amazing. Also, again, I think also it's going to be very interesting to see how it turns out. But, Amazon is doing a Fallout series that should come out either this year or next year.
Oh, that's
So,
right.
and it's by Jonathan Nolan, who wrote The Dark Knight and Westworld. So,
Mm.
I think we're entering in a great phase.
I
And-
heard
and
rumors of a
Netflix has
Sims movie.
Bioshock.
A what?
A
Hmm.
Sims movie.
Oh, yeah, I heard a rumor
Weird.
about that too.
I still don't know how they're gonna do it, but
Yeah, they'd have to probably do it something like they focus on like one sim or like a couple
Yeah.
of like a sim, one sim in particular, but like lives in a sim community, kind of like maybe the Muppets movie or something. They
Yeah.
focus on like Jason Segel and then like the Muppet and then Amy he fall. Anyway, they'll figure it out, I guess, if that's possible. But yeah, then Netflix has Bioshock,
Yep.
which
it's just like
is not a series, and I think that is their mistake. It's a movie. And
Yeah.
I'm pray.
think-
Let's see if they change it to a series because that tackling Bioshock in a movie form. I mean, maybe they're gonna have to cut a lot.
But here's the thing, though. I wonder if they'll go. I think the way that you should do it is if it's a big game, like Bioshock has a lot of rich storytelling within it,
It does.
and it does.
Yeah,
So
along
I
with
would
Last
do
of
it.
Us, Bioshock is another one with story. Yeah,
I think what they need to do is the part 1 and part 2 model, like they did with Dune.
and Red Dead Redemption.
Yeah.
Also rich
Yep.
story.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yep.
we'll see that in someday. But my final remarks, or at least for me, I think this episode again was a great breath of fresh air. I think it captured the essence and beauty of a beautiful homosexual relationship. And I don't know if Murray Bartlett is gay. But
I've only ever
Nick-
seen him
Nick
play gay
Offerman
characters.
is not gay. I mean, Murray might be gay. I know the director is gay. And I don't know if Craig Mazin is gay.
I
hate
don't
me,
know
Craig.
either.
Don't hate me,
I'm
Craig.
really
I
curious
know
about Murray
Neil
Bartlett
isn't.
because I've only ever seen him play gay characters in the 3 shows in the past like month that I've seen him in.
Yeah, I mean, no, I mean, like when there's a what is the phrase? Something, there's a fire. Where there's gas, there's fire. I don't know. I can't I can't figure out the phrase that I'm trying to find. But anyways, yeah, my final thoughts is it's a beautiful episode of television, and the fact that they packed a lifetime into 75 minutes is fucking phenomenal. Less than 75 minutes because they had to spend
He is.
on
Murray is gay. Murray
Murray's
is
gay.
gay.
That makes
Yep,
complete sense.
that makes
Yeah.
complete sense.
jazz hands.
He came early in his Wikipedia is saying that he came out early in his career. So
I mean,
all for
honestly, it's kind of that thing where Jonathan Van Ness and sorry, I'm like rambling here, but Jonathan Van Ness from Queer Eye, I remember, I'll never forget his saying. He's like, I didn't have to come out. He was like, the sky is blue, grass is green, I'm gay. Like,
yeah, I love that. Yep.
He said,
I love
he
him
was like,
so
you don't have a chance. You know what I mean? You don't have
Yeah.
you don't
Oh my
have
God.
like you are what you are, right? There's some people who just are, and I feel like Murray Bartlett fits that. You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean?
think so too.
Yep.
I feel like maybe now seeing him kind of serious, because I'd have to look at his filmography, but I don't watch The White Lotus. I don't know him from that. But
I've
like,
only seen him in
I
White
feel like I've
Lotus
seen him in a
and
couple other
Tales.
things.
Yeah.
But anyways, so he's good.
And that's
So
interesting.
that's my
It's an
last thought.
HBO show. He's with Warner Brothers when it came to that. I forgot that he
Yeah.
I forgot that he was the manager in the White Lotus season 1. Oh my god.
He's
That
also in Chippendales.
Just like what began
Yeah.
at that, both HBO. So, Tyler, what would be your final remarks on this episode?
I thought it was phenomenal. I thought it was a great way to flip the script a little bit, and knowing a little bit now more about how the game was. I think dedicating a whole episode to them, I think just enriches the story even more
Yep.
and shows that there is. I think that's a beautiful thing, that it's
Ryan
showing
Murphy
that there
was
is
good.
stuff out there in this world that is worth fighting for, and through telling their story and then Joel reading that letter, it just reaffirms the fact that there is stuff out there that's still worth fighting for. And I fought for Frank, so you should fight for, I think that's also just saying you need to fight for Ellie as much as you can.
Reaffirming his purpose. Yep.
Yep. And I think that's beautiful because it is such a bleak world. And it's also a bleak world right now. And I think that's just a beautiful thing to have a story where you're like, okay, like there are people around you that you need to fight for, no matter what. And I love that. So great.
I just thought of a line. One of I think my favorite line of the entire episode is when he's going to kill. Bill is going to kill Frank, and he says that if you love me, you would do this for me. He says something on that order.
Yeah.
Man, that line hit. That was like, oh wow.
Yep. And it's like I got to go through with it. And oh my god.
You mean when he's talking about like I've had a lot of good days and bad days, but I've had more good days than bad days with you or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
He's like, give me one more good day, give me some toast.
Yep.
Yeah. Christina, what are your final remarks on?
I pretty much said all my thoughts. I don't really have any final remarks.
Oh, you're looking forward to next week?
Yes.
Yeah. I also am looking forward to next week. If I have my final remarks, I would say that I think that at first going into it, I didn't know, how much of Joel and Ellie we'd get, how much of Bill and Frank we would get. I think they gave us a nice balance. It didn't feel like because I feel like if they just made it a Bill and Frank episode with no Joel or Ellie, as a viewer, I'd be like, wait, where are Joel and Ellie?
It would really pull us out even more.
Yeah, I would love it, but still, it would be like I want Joel and Ellie. The fact that they give them, they give us them at the beginning and give us them at the end, it works really well.
And also have that connection with Joel.
Yes, and I also
connect it more to the main characters.
Exactly, and I mean, you have Joel show up in that flashback with, well, no, it's not a flashback, but kind of with Bill, and you see, oh wow, like this was Joel before we saw him at the 20 years later, and him and Tess look younger, and they didn't look like they were as messed up as they were later on. Tess looked
right, they're less jaded.
Yeah.
Or they're not yet jaded as much. Yeah.
Tess looks like she just came out of like a daycare almost. Like she doesn't look like, the same Tess.
Oh yeah.
And she looked really happy too.
Yep.
Yeah. They really, I mean, they gave us so much that, we I think wanted to see from the show, but also a lot more added material that I think even the gamers, I think most gamers that truly respect the game and what it goes for, I think they would love this episode because it's doing things that I think in my opinion enhance the game when it comes to the ending with Joel and Ellie and him reading this letter, like you guys are saying too, like it's now going to give him more of a purpose. And he's starting to see more of how the people's lives, those that have died around him, whether it's Sarah, whether it's Tess, he has a life in front of him being Ellie, and he must protect that. And it must protect the world. And you know what? Before I end this, I just remembered, I liked it when he checked her arm. I thought that was a really cool observation because I don't remember in the game if Destiny, do you remember if in the game he would check her arm to make sure she hadn't turned or it hadn't gotten worse?
He doesn't check it regularly because I mean he doesn't really do that. At the beginning of the game, yeah, he does, but it's only related to like Tess, let me see. And I don't even think does she get rebit even? I don't even know if she gets. I think they added that rebite scene, but I can't be sure.
I love it. I think it really, and I think it it shows you, like, if I was Joel, I wouldn't be like, you know what, she should be fine. I would keep checking, and I think that just
Yeah.
shows you how detailed the show is, and they know there aren't really many plot holes in the show, which shows you great screenwriting, great direction and editing and all the stuff. So yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, everyone here loves this episode. But I think right now I will end this. Thank you so much. First off, all my guests that joined us, Tyler, Destiny, and thank you for joining us, Christina. I'm glad that
You should join us.
had-
Join us next week.
Yeah.
We could have 5 people. I wonder if we can do 5.
I
Kyle?
think
Yeah.
so. I think so. I
Probably.
think it was up to like
Okay.
8 or
Then
something.
everybody join in. We'll get
Yeah.
more
Yeah,
people.
I'll
Um,
gladly join in next week. This was
that was-
fun.
Oh my god, this was a
Thank
lot of
you
fun.
to those that listened to, and that was in the comment section, Steven and
Louis.
and if
And
Kit's
David.
still
David
listening,
cameo.
thank
We
you.
had a David cameo in there.
We did.
Yep, earlier. Yep. So, hey, David.
Okay, well, if David, you're still listening, please go to sleep and get some rest. Feel better
Yes.
soon. We'll see him definitely next week on the next one. This week for Real Talks is going to be a big one because we actually have an interview with the editor of The Last of Us, who actually edited this episode, and a number of the others. His name's Timothy A. Good, and that will be on Tuesday, where David and I will sit down and have this exciting conversation with him. If you're also curious, he's also edited other shows that a lot of people know, whether it's The Umbrella Academy, Under the Dome, a number of others, and
He also directed. I didn't know this, and I don't think I worked on his episodes. I'm still trying to figure out. But he also directed and edited some of the episodes of The Resident, which I worked on in 2018, 2019, and like right before the lockdown in 2020.
Yeah.
So cool, dude. Super freaking cool, dude.
Yeah, a lot of stuff going on. With another weekly roundup is coming this week, along with I would assume either Perfect Movies or a show that like I forget what David calls it. It's a movie that David's never seen before. A movie I haven't seen before.
First showing or something. It's
First reactions.
First reaction.
But yeah, so thank you guys for joining and have a good one. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And good night, everybody. Bye.
Bye, Kyle.